Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name's Rachel and this is Stitched Up. So today's video is going to be how to create a blind hem. I'm going to talk you through how to prepare your fabric and how to create that really lovely hem that looks almost invisible. So if you're interested in finding out how to do it, then let's get started. So I'm going to show you how to do a blind hem on this skirt. Now the first thing I want to do with this skirt is, because I've used a panel print, the selvage is actually along the bottom hem of the skirt, and I'm going to take this off with my overlocker. And the reason for that is because obviously the selvage tends to be a little bit thicker, and I could leave it on because it gives a nice neat finished edge. However, I think it will make the skirt stick out a little bit. It'll be too rigid and structured for the bottom hem of the skirt. So I'm going to take this off because with this being sort of midi maxi length, I want it to flow rather than sort of stick out at a bit of an angle. But the first thing you need to do when you are doing a blind hem on anything is finish or neaten the actual bottom of the garment that you are hemming. So you can, most people will, if you've got an overlocker, use an overlocker just to overlock the edge, or you can just use pinking shears if you don't have an overlocker, or if you don't have either of those, most sewing machines do come with an overcast stitch on, which essentially is just like a you can use a zigzag, that's what I'm thinking of. So yeah, so there's lots and lots of options dependent on what equipment you've got. So first things first, I am just going to run this through my overlocker to get rid of this selvage so that it makes the bottom hem nice and neat, but also just gets rid of that stiffness that's in the selvage edge. See, I've run through the bottom of the skirt through the overlocker, so that's all nice, neatly finished now, and I've got rid of that selvage edge. The next thing we want to do is just go and press up the hem to the desired length of the skirt that we want, and then we'll come back and I'll show you what we do next. So following pressing your hem, you then need to select the correct stitch on your machine. Now on my machine, I will show you, it is this one here. So this essentially is what your blind hem stitch should look like. Most sewing machines will have this as a function, so it should be in your stitch inventory somewhere on your sewing machine. But essentially this is what it will look like. So select your stitch, and you will need a presser foot that has a nice big sort of hole in the center. I don't know if you can see that there, but you see it's got that big hole, essentially what you would use for a zigzag foot. But I also like to use the one that's clear as well, so that I can see straight through it. But basically what's going to be happening is your needle is going to be moving across every so often to catch the hem basically, and so you need to have a presser foot that's got a nice big gap there so that it can move across without damaging. The one I've got on my sewing machine at the minute is this one, which I've just taken off, which is I use for top stitching, and it's just got that tiny little hole in the center. So yeah, you don't want anything like that. You need a presser foot that's got a nice big long gap in the center so that the needle has room to move across when it's catching the hem. Right, so I've now come back and I have pressed up the hem by the desired amount that I want for this skirt all the way around. And then what we're going to do is you open up the hem, and then you fold from the inside back on itself. Okay, so I'm just going to show you that again. Where you've pressed up your hem, open it up, okay, and then you fold the skirt from the inside back up on itself, using the pressing that you've used on the other side as your guide underneath, and then we're just going to pin that all the way along. Now if you can see, you fold doesn't want to be all the way to the top of where you've neatened the seam. It needs to be just a few centimeters, couple of centimeters below that. But what we're going to do is I'm going to do it perpendicular. I'm going to pin perpendicular to the overcast edge that I've done there, and I'm going to do this all the way around the skirt, pinning it in place. Can you see how that's going? So how it looks from the other side is the folded edge is currently there, folded back on itself, and you've got the inside fold just there with the bottom of the hem there. So if I just move along and show you again, we've got the folded seam up that's just been pressed in place. We're going to undo it, and then we're going to fold the skirt back onto the bottom of the seam like so, and then we're just going to pin that for now. So I'm going to carry on doing that all the way around so that all of it is pinned in place. Right, so I've now got all that pinned in place, and I'm just going to have a little look at the settings on my machine. Now I've got my blind stitch selected on my sewing machine, and I have the option of lengthening the stitch if I want to, or also widening where the zigzag actually catches the main fabric, so that's going to create the blind hem for us. Now I don't know if you have that option on the machine you have. I'm not sure whether some of the more basic machines have the option to play about with the settings, but if they do, this is your opportunity now to have a little practice on some scrap fabric and play about with the settings, because what you're actually wanting is this little zigzag notch that comes in. You only want it to be catching the very, very tiniest amount of fabric on the fold that we've created here. We don't want it coming in a long way, because then it's not going to be a blind stitch. We want it a tiny amount. So you might need to, if you have the option, play around with the settings on the width of this just to see where the notch is going to come into, to try and play around with that so that it gives you a really nice invisible stitch. And yeah, I would advise you play about with this piece of scrap fabric first before you do it on a very precious homemade garment. Okay, so I'm just going to have a little look at mine now. Right, so I have set up my machine. I'll just lift this up so you can see a little bit better. And what I've done is I've used my Clearview foot, and I have lined up the edge of the foot with the edge of my overlocked seam, and that will mean that the main running stitches, which if I show you are these ones here, will run on this piece of fabric here, and then the notch will just come in to just catch the folded edge, and that's going to create our blind stitch. Now you do this at a very slow speed, okay, because you want this to be as invisible as possible, and so you don't want to be speeding away on your sewing machine while you're doing this. So we're going to set off with this now, and we'll show you how it looks. Don't worry too much if you miss the odd little bit. You know, I'm not an expert at doing these kinds of hems myself. I've only done a few, to be fair. But just take your time with it, and don't go too fast. So I'll do a little bit more, and then I'm going to show you from the wrong side what it should be looking like. Okay, so can you see that there? What you've got is you've got the running stitch along there, and then you've got this notch that just comes in and just catches every so often a stitch on the folded edge. And what that will give you when we turn it the right way round is a beautiful, she says, blind hem. This is a great stitch to do on woven fabrics, and saves you hand hemming. I always think the one thing that ruins an item of clothing, particularly skirts and dresses, is a machine stitched hem. I think it just makes it look really homemade, and it's a mistake that lots of beginners make because they just rush and want to get to the end and can't wait to wear their new make that they're really proud of. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and I certainly made a few items of clothing like that myself when I started sewing, where I just machine sewed the hem up, and you soon sort of learn that actually it just doesn't look very nice at all. But hand sewing hems can take quite a while, especially if you're making dresses or skirts that have a really full skirt. You know, you can be talking, you know, big circle skirts, you can be talking a good couple of hours to hem. You know, and lots of people just don't have the time or the inclination to spend all that time hand hemming. So this is a really good option that allows you to still create a lovely hand hemmed finish, because this stitch is not totally invisible. You are still going to see it on the right side of the fabric, but it looks better than just sewing from the right side. If you're making jersey fabrics, you don't use this hem. Anything you make with jersey, you can just use a twin needle or a cover stitched hem, because you need something quite stretchy. And generally we don't go for a blind hem finish on jersey fabrics or jersey dresses, but on a woven this is pretty good. Right, so I'm going to whiz through to the end of this, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like from the right side. Right, so I finished off doing the blind hem stitch all the way around the bottom border of this skirt, and then all you need to do then is fold up the hem. So from the inside it will now look like that, but from the outside it will look like that. Now obviously, as I say, you can still see the stitches, and but you know, it's not bad, is it? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and give this a really good press and then show you what it looks like. It's all totally pressed. Now as you can see, it's not completely invisible. If you get up close you can see the odd little stitch, but I'm sure you'll agree that it's a much better finish than if it was just all machine stitched. The key to getting a really invisible blind stitch is obviously when you are you know, the little sort of indentations, the little zigzag that goes in, is just catching the merest hint of fabric on the fold, and not obviously coming in too much. The more you come in, the more this stitch will show. So it just needs to be the very, you know, very finest threads that you catch. But yeah, I mean, from a distance you can't tell really that that it's been machine stitched, and this is the kind of effect that you would still see obviously if you hand stitched. So I'm really pleased with that, and yeah, I hope that shows you how to do a blind hem, and yeah, have a go, have a practice. I think it's one of those things, the more you do it, the easier it will become. So I hope you found that useful. If you have, please leave me a comment below. Have you done a blind hem yourself before? Can you give me any tips? As I say, I am no expert at all, but I have done it a few times now. So and I do really like the effect. yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video. When you are watching this, I will be on holiday, so please, if you do leave me a comment and I haven't picked it up, please bear with me. I'm not really going to be able to pick up any comments while I'm on holiday, but I will pick up on them as soon as I'm back. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. If you have, please give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe, and I'll be back with you really soon. Take care, guys. Bye.